Hello everyone. Today, we're talking about rare and valuable British coins that could be hiding in your change. Some of these coins are worth big money. If you love coins or just want to learn something new, stay tuned. Let's take a fun and simple look at these special coins. First up, let's talk about the 1980 50 new pence coin. This coin is part of the UK's rich coin history and was produced during the early years after the country switched to decimal currency. Decimalisation happened in 1971, and it was a huge change. Before that, British money worked in pounds, shillings, and pence, which could be confusing. So, the UK moved to a simpler system with 100 new pence in £1. The 50p coin became one of the larger and more valuable coins in regular circulation. The 1980 50p coin is well known for its classic Britannia design. On the back of the coin, or reverse side, you'll see a seated Britannia holding a trident and a shield with the Union flag. She's a powerful symbol of the United Kingdom and has been appearing on British coinage for centuries. The design is very traditional and instantly recognisable, and for collectors, that alone can make a coin feel more special. Now, here's something important to understand. The 1980 version of this coin is not extremely rare by itself. In fact, over 89 million of these coins were made, so if you found one in your change or tucked away in an old jar, that's not unusual. It was a common coin at the time and still turns up from time to time. Because it was made in such large numbers, the coin on its own, especially if it's been used and shows signs of wear, isn't going to make you rich overnight. But don't lose hope just yet. There are still reasons this coin could be worth more than its face value, especially to collectors. One big factor is condition. If your 1980 50p coin is in excellent condition, meaning it hasn't been used in shops or passed around, it might be worth a bit more. This kind of coin is called uncirculated. These are coins that were either taken straight from the Royal Mint or handled very carefully by collectors. If you've got one that looks shiny and clean, with no scratches or marks, it might be worth up to £5, or sometimes even a bit more depending on the market. Another thing to look for is minting errors. These are mistakes that happen during the coin-making process, and they can turn an ordinary coin into something very valuable. Errors can include things like misaligned printing, missing details, double strikes, where the coin is hit twice, or the wrong design on one side. Some errors are obvious, while others might require a magnifying glass or expert eyes to spot. But collectors absolutely love rare mistakes like this, because they're unusual and often hard to find. There have even been reports of 50p coins from other years selling for hundreds of pounds when they had rare errors, so it's worth having a close look at yours. When you're inspecting your coin, check both sides carefully. Look at the lettering around the edge. Is everything spelt correctly? Are the designs sharp and clear? Are there any unusual marks or signs that something went wrong when the coin was made? If so, you could have something valuable on your hands. Even if your coin isn't an error coin or in perfect shape, it's still a fascinating piece of British history. The early decimal coins tell a story of change, progress, and national identity. That's what makes coin collecting so exciting. It's not just about money, it's about stories and surprises. So, if you ever find a 1980 50p coin in your old piggy bank or pocket, take a moment to look it over. You might be holding a little piece of history, or even a hidden gem. Next, let's take a closer look at the 1968 10 new pence coin. This coin has a special place in British coinage history because it was one of the first decimal coins ever made. Decimalisation, which officially happened in 1971, was a massive change for the UK's money system. But to help people get used to the new coins before the switch, some of them were released early. That's why this 10p coin was first minted in 1968, 3 years before decimalisation officially began. The coin is large, much larger than today's 10p coins, and it's made of cupronickel, which gives it that silver-coloured finish. On the reverse side, that's the tail side, you'll see a design of a crowned lion. This symbol is based on the English crest, a powerful and proud part of the UK's history. The lion stands proudly with the crown right on its head, and underneath, it simply says New Pence. Now, here's an interesting fact. In 1992, the UK reduced the size of the 10p coin, and the older, bigger versions like the 1968 coin were taken out of regular circulation. So, if you find one of these older, larger coins, you know it's from that early decimal era. But is it valuable? Well, in most cases, a 1968 10p coin is not rare. The Royal Mint made a lot of them, over 336 million, to be exact. That's a huge number. Because of that, most 1,968 10p coins you come across today won't be worth much more than their face value, especially if they've been used a lot and are scratched or worn down. However, just like with other coins, condition matters a lot. If your 1968 10p coin is in mint condition, meaning it looks almost brand new and shiny with no marks, then it's more valuable to a collector. Coins like that are called uncirculated coins, and they were usually kept safe from the start, maybe in a coin folder, a protective case, or as part of a special set. In uncirculated condition, the 1968 10p coin might be worth £1 to £3, depending on where you sell it and the interest of collectors. It's not a fortune, but it's definitely more than just pocket change. Now let's talk about errors, because these are where things get really exciting. Every now and then, during the minting process, a mistake might happen. For example, the coin might be slightly off-cent, or it might have a double image. Sometimes, part of the design might be missing or not pressed properly. These errors are very rare, but when they do happen, they can turn an ordinary coin into something that's highly collectible and valuable. So far, there haven't been any major public discoveries of widely known minting errors for the 1968 10p coin, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. If you ever come across one that looks unusual or different from the rest, it's always worth having it looked at by an expert or local coin dealer. Even small differences can mean a big increase in value. Another thing to check is if your coin has an unusual color or surface. Sometimes, coins that were struck on the wrong type of metal can slip through the minting process. These so-called wrong planchet coins are super rare, and collectors love them. If your 10p coin looks golden, coppery, or is very lightweight, you might have something special. So while the 1968 10p coin is quite common overall, there's always a chance you've got one in great condition or with a hidden error. And even if it's not worth much money, it's still a lovely piece of history, the very beginning of decimal coinage in the UK. Now let's move on to the 1975 new pence coin. This coin is part of the early decimal series and has a strong connection to the UK's transition away from the old pounds, shillings, and pence system. Although decimalisation officially happened in 1971, the Royal Mint started preparing the public by releasing coins ahead of time. The 5p coin was introduced in 1968, and the version from 1970 is part of this early release group. What makes the 1975p coin special is that it was not issued for general circulation. That means it was never meant to be handed out as everyday change. Instead, it was only included in special collector's sets, also known as proof sets, that were made to mark the end of pre-decimal coinage. So, if you have a 1975p coin, it most likely came from one of these official mint sets, which were sold to the public in presentation packs. The design is simple but elegant. On the reverse, tails side, the coin features the badge of Scotland, which is a thistle with a crown on top. The thistle has long been a symbol of Scottish pride and strength. This design stayed on the 5p coin until it was changed in 2008. The words New Pence appear above the badge, which also helps to identify it as part of the early decimal coins. Now let's talk about value and rarity. Because this coin was never in general circulation, it's already considered rarer than most. Fewer were made, and those that exist were usually stored carefully by collectors. That means many 1975p coins are in very good condition, often uncirculated or even proof quality. A standard proof coin from a 1970 set is worth around £2 to £5, depending on its condition and how it's packaged. However, there are always exceptions. Coins that are still sealed in their original proof set and haven't been touched might sell for a bit more, especially to collectors who are looking for a full set from that year. If your coin is in poor condition, though, it might not be worth much more than face value, simply because it's lost its collector appeal. One thing to watch for is minting errors. Although no major public errors are officially linked to the 1975p coin, it's still worth checking. Any unusual marks, doubling of text, or off-cent strikes could raise the value significantly. These kinds of flaws are interesting to collectors because they're rare and sometimes completely unique. You should also take note of the metal and size. The 1975p coin is made from cupronickel and is larger than the current 5p coins we use today. In fact, the size was reduced in 1990, so if your coin feels bigger than usual, that's completely normal for coins from this era. So, while the 1975p might not make you rich, it's still an interesting and collectible part of UK coin history, especially since it wasn't released for normal use. Finally, let's take a closer look at the 1977 2 pence coin. At first glance, this coin might look like any other old 2p coin you'd find at the bottom of a drawer. But some versions of this coin have caught the attention of collectors, especially because of one interesting detail, the wording on the coin. Let's dig into why. The 2p coin was first introduced in 1971 as part of the UK's decimalisation process. From 1971 to 1981, the coin featured the phrase "new pence" on the reverse side, just above the main design. This was done to show that the coin was part of the new decimal currency, not the older pre-decimal system. The 1977 2p coin is one of the coins from this new pence era. It features the badge of the Prince of Wales, a plume of ostrich feathers within a coronet, with the German motto "Sei CHDN, which means I serve. It's a neat design and full of history. But here's the thing. In terms of numbers, the Royal Mint produced over 300 million of these coins in 1977, so they're very common. Most are only worth face value. So why do people talk about the 1977 2p being worth over £1,000 or more? It all comes down to errors and confusion with another rare version. In 1983, the Royal Mint officially changed the wording on the 2p coin from new pence to simply 2 pence. But during that transition, a few coins were mistakenly struck with the old new pence design in 1983. These are the coins that are extremely rare because they were not supposed to be made that way. Only a handful of these 1983 new pence terror coins are known to exist, and they've sold for over £500 to £1,500 in auctions. So sometimes people think their 1977 new pence 2p coin is one of these rare errors, but it's not. The 1977 version is supposed to say new pence. That was the normal design at the time, and millions were made just like that. However, the 1977 coin can still be worth more than 2p if it's in brilliant uncirculated condition or part of a proof set. Coins that have never been used and are still shiny and flawless are always more attractive to collectors. In that condition, a 1977 2p might fetch around £1 to £3, possibly more if it's presented in official mint packaging. There's also the chance, though rare, of a minting error. As with other coins, if your 2p from 1977 looks strange, maybe with a double strike, offset text, or a smooth edge where there should be lettering, it's worth checking with a coin expert. These errors are hard to spot but can add a lot of value. So, while most 1977 2 pence coins aren't rare or super valuable on their own, they're still a fun and important part of the UK's decimal coin history, and who knows, if you spot an unusual one, you might just have something special. That wraps up our look at some of the most expensive and ultra-rare UK coins. Remember, the value of a coin depends on its rarity, condition, and any unique characteristics it might have. So, next time you receive change, take a moment to inspect your coins, you might just find a hidden gem. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more coin-related content. Happy collecting!